Teaching and inspiring learning. So what better people to have to talk about what inspiration will mean to them than the voice of the students. Now you're going to have to be very good in this session because I am reliably informed that this session is going out via Facebook Live globally to the schools and certainly to members of the World Congress of Chiropractic students. The way that this session will run, we have 6 15-minute presentations. And then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end where we invite the speakers to come up and answer any questions that you may have. So without further ado, it gives me enormous pleasure to invite to the stage somebody who I've now known for a few years through the WFC's engagement with the World Congress of Chiropractic students. And Naomi is a recent graduate of the University of South Wales. But earlier this year in Johannesburg, South Africa, at the AGM of the World Congress of Chiropractic Students, she was elected as president. So speaking to us this morning about learner-centered education and what students want, would you please give a warm London welcome to Naomi van Veen.
So who of you has ever heard about the millennials? Right? But who of you knows how the generation after the millennials is called? Some. So this is actually very important because this generation is everyone that is born from 1996 and after, meaning that they are the oldest ones are turning 22 this year, meaning that everyone up to 22 now is not actually millennial anymore, but is a part of this new generation. And this generation is called... This generation is called Generation Z. So they don't have another name at the moment yet. They're called Generation Z. And there are a couple of things that are significantly different again with Generation Z compared to the millennials were. So this Generation Z, you can imagine, they have been born with this in this world with technology, right? So they've always had access to all sorts of knowledge. Like they could just Google whatever they wanted to know, and they've always been able to. They've also they also have this urgency, like they need to know the why. They need to know why they need to learn something. So that is important to know when you're teaching them. They've also been grown up with social media. They've always known that social media is around and they've been connected with the whole of the world from basically when they were born. And apart from that, it's very important they have a very short concentration span of about, like it is actually, like they say that they have about a concentration span of 8 seconds. And at the same time, they're very good in multitasking. Right? Like from the moment they were born, they were on social media, and they were like brushing their hair, and they did all sorts of things at the same time, and they've always done. So, why is this important to know for you guys in order to teach them in the right way? Can you imagine that someone with a concentration span of 8 seconds that is very good in multitasking, but also they need to multitask, right? They're very bad in single tasking. That they have to sit in a lecture for about an hour and just listen. That's for them, it's probably close to a nightmare, right? Like how can they keep focused? How can they not be distracted by that urge to multitask? They'll always go on their phone, or they even won't show up, which is probably what you guys notice that is happening, right? So we probably should get rid of the idea that this millennials and the Generation Z, that they are not disciplined enough to learn, because they are disciplined enough to learn. But their brains work different than that the brains worked from generations 2 decades ago, right? Times change, and that's important to realize. So then the question is, and I'm a bit of Simon today, I know. Then the question is, how would you teach them that? And they actually did a survey with Generation Z, so with those students up to 22, and asked them. So then 51% of them says, we learn by doing. And 38% says we learn by seeing, and only 12% says we learn by listening, so sitting in a lecture. So what you probably want to consider doing is not just giving them the lecture anymore, but get them more actively involved and make sure that they learn by doing. So then they also got asked what are the most helpful tools for learning. And then the top 3 was class discussions, working through problems or concepts, and study guides. Yes, yeah, that's it. Then, so what you probably want to start using is videos. I graduated, like Richard said, I graduated last July, and we had two kinds of people in my class. We had the people that watched Dr. Najib, and we had the people that watched Armando Hasuduga. Those are two teachers, and I see some people laughing. Those are two teachers on YouTube that are teaching the current chiropractic students like physiology, anatomy, and everything that basically because they are medical teachers. So everything that medical students need to learn as well. And Armando Hasuduga, what he did is he has a white clean sheet, and then he starts drawing through whatever he's explaining, and he's exceptionally good in that. And his videos are very short, so I liked what he did. I was an Armando Hasuduga person. I very much liked what he did, and his lectures would look something like this at the end of the video, right? Like he started on nothing, and he would draw his way through the nervous system, explaining to me what the nervous system does, which to me worked a lot better than reading 10 pages in a tough physiology book. And then you had also Dr. Najib. He is a bit more of a classic teacher, but he makes everything very visual. And you can imagine those students can just do that when they're hangover in bed, or like when they're in the airplane or in the bus, they can just put up a lecture and look at that moment. How do they like to learn? I would say with videos, with in-class interactive discussions, debates, work groups, projects, etc. And you need to make the students kind of steer what the course is going to. I was actually, if I would be a teacher right now, I would probably not even be really teaching in front of the class. I would just pick the right videos that I think they should be watching, make them watch them, and then when they come into the lecture, I would probably have class discussions with them, have working groups, make them do exercises, etc. And this seems, if you look at the research, this seems really the way that these new generations want to learn. So then I did this research, there were some surprising things as well. So basically, I would suggest that you don't start doing this in 5 years, because I'm optimistic, I put down 10 years. But when I did the research, it actually said that within 5 years, there's probably things like virtual reality and everything in the university, and that's going to play more and a bigger role in time. So I would like to think that that's in 10 years. So I would suggest that you really try to engage with this newer generation and with their different way of learning, so that in 10 years when you're having virtual reality in the universities, you're not still giving 1-hour lectures that they just don't show up to. So then there's this other, so that was more about how students want to learn, right? And then there's this other thing, public health. So with the WCCS, we've been more and more involved with the WHO and other healthcare student organizations, like the medical students, the dental students. And the more we get involved with them, the more we learn that everything is about public health in the end of the day. So chiropractic is a part of public health. And everything that we learned, we took to our AGM in Johannesburg, and we made the students do certain exercises. And we discussed with them as well. And basically every single student, whether they were from a principal college or a non-principal college, every single student thought it was first of all important to do. They feel the why, they know why they're doing it, they feel engaged. And they see chiropractic from a bigger perspective. So what is the role of chiropractic? And the students will be taking this back obviously to their practices, maybe to their national associations. So I would say that we really have a big responsibility to teach the students more about public health and the role of chiropractic within that. So one of the things that we did is we did an exercise where we took the economic status and the healthcare problems of certain middle to lower income countries. And for example, we took the Republic of Congo, and we gave a group of about 8 students, we asked them to create a PowerPoint presentation about the solutions for that particular healthcare problem in that particular country with their particular economic status. And the feedback that we got is that they found it so interesting to learn about, like to look further than just chiropractic and learn about how a low to middle income country can improve their health. So yeah, that's something that you could take back. And after I made this presentation, I figured that Bio, where I studied, made some changes and that they have a public health module now. So I'm very happy to see that. That I actually want to skip. So we're here with the 3 students from the WCCS, so me, Emily, and Kemi. And if you have any questions about what the students think, what the students would like, or anything, then please reach out to us. Thank you.
Well, how refreshing was that? I think that's a fantastic presentation.